Welcome back to the channel. Now today's video is the next installment of the series I have called Master in League Play, and as you can probably tell by the title, it is going to be on accuracy, how to improve your aim and give you the best benefits towards winning those gunfights. So you can see here on the screen at the moment I've got a fairly decent accuracy with my sub. I've got 34% accuracy and a 14% headshot accuracy, which I think is not too bad. Now you can see in the shot tracker, most of my shots are either in the head, upper torso, or mid torso. And obviously, with that headshot, you get that 1.4% damage multiplier, which just makes them enemies drop quicker. Then my stats for the Krig. As you can see, I've got plenty less kills with the Krig. But as you can see, I'm even more accurate with that just because the gun's an absolute beam. And I think with an AR, you tend to need to be more accurate due to the fact that if you don't, you're just going to get outbeamed by the other person with the AR. So moving straight into the topics, we're going to start with settings, and this is going to include things such as sensitivity, aim assist, response curve, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So we're going to jump into this. I'm going to remove flat jacket so I can kill myself if needs be. Okay, so first thing I'm going to talk about is sensitivity. So we need to ensure that the sensitivity is at a good point where you feel like you can hit your shots properly without actually causing a detrimental effect to your movement. Now, I did discuss sensitivity in my movement video, and I said it was key to ensure that your sensitivity was high enough so that you could maneuver around the map properly, especially if you're a sub player, things like that. So my sensitivity I'm running at the moment is 8.8. Which obviously is quite high, but I counterbalance that with a 0.73 ADS stick sensitivity for low zoom, and this basically means that while you're aimed in, you'll be at 73% of your actual sensitivity. So although I've got that 8.8 sensitivity for when I'm just maneuvering around the map, when I'm actually ADS'd, it's a lot more accurate. We then go into the aim assist settings, and I have target aim assist enabled, and it's at standard. Now standard and legacy are relatively similar. Legacy obviously is for the one that we had in Modern Warfare and Warzone, but I tend to stick it on standard. If you were using a sniper, I'd recommend precision and focusing, because what it does, it slows down your aim when you move over them when you're exactly on the player, whereas standard and legacy, the aim assist sort of takes into effect when you're like moving towards a player. So for example, say this blue stack of boxes here were a player. When you're moving into aim such as this, standard or legacy would stop and then slow down when you get to this sort of closeness, whereas legacy, not legacy, sorry, the other two would stop as I get above, would stop as you get right onto it. So again, say this barrels it, the sniping ones, the two bottom ones would stop it when you get to it, whereas the other ones would stop it and then slow down when you get towards it. So I do prefer the other two unless you're using a sniper. But it is personal preference. Now, let's move on to response curve. Now, my response curve is, where is it? It's here somewhere. There it is. My response curve is standard. I wouldn't usually use standard. If I usually play on dynamic, but because I've got an elite controller, I am able to map the stick sensitivity specifically to this controller. So no matter what game I'm playing, I've always got this dynamic controller, and basically all it does is means that the quick movements you have on the stick do happen more quickly, so you can react quicker. It's not as slow to start off with, and then it ends up getting slower eventually towards the mid side of the stick threshold. So I do recommend playing on dynamic, but again, as I say, it's personal choice, and it's completely up to you. I would recommend changing sensitivity, changing your aim assist response curve and things like that. Jump into a lobby with bots like I am and just see how you get on. Next, we're going to talk about attachments, and this is going to be a section on controlling recoil. Now, as I said, sensitivity and the settings are pretty much all just up to you. Doesn't really matter what you pick, as long as it's right for you and you know you can be accurate with it. And I would test that by jumping into a bot lobby like I am and just trying it out. That's the best way you can do it. So moving on to attachments, personally, a lot of people use a Spetsnaz compensator. was talking, there we go. But I like to have muzzle brake. The Spetsnaz compensator for me adds too much horizontal recoil, which means that if you're trying to map someone across map, your aim can bounce from left to right. And I do find vertical recoil a lot more manageable because you just simply hold down on the analog stick, whereas horizontal recoil can be a little bit more unpredictable, and just makes your aim a little bit less reliable. So I do prefer attachments that have vertical recoil pros, and eliminate the negative horizontal recoil cons. Again, not many attachments, such as, well, foregrip does the horizontal recoil, so I recommend using that. And anything really, you don't really want to hurt your horizontal recoil, in my opinion, as I said, because it is harder to use, because it is harder to get used to. Vertical recoil is far easier to control than vertical, so I would recommend using the muzzle brake over the Spetsnaz compensator if you are struggling with the gun bouncing around a lot. So, next topic is going to be shorter sprays rather than longer sprays. Now, you'll see here when I go up to this wall, the recoil sort of is a bit unpredictable. It goes up, then it's a bit left, and it goes right. If you kept the shorter bursts, it's a little bit more manageable. You do see people just spraying across the map sometimes, but it does, as I said, it does make the recoil harder to control, because as you shoot for longer, that bot's absolutely going off on me there. As you shoot for longer, you do end up missing shots due to the fact that the recoil does become a little bit more unpredictable. This is especially prevalent with the FFAR. I know one of you guys commented in my FFAR video saying that my recoil is really good, or how do I control it? And it's just not holding it down. If you're putting out 20 bullets in a spray, chances are you're going to start missing ammo, because the recoil is so left and right. Whereas if you do the shorter bursts, a bit easier to control, and they do end up going in similar, like fairly straight lines. So I would recommend bursting your guns, or not spraying for too long if you can. Obviously, if it calls for it, you've sort of got to, and then fight the recoil. But not spraying is an absolute huge thing in helping to keep the recoil relatively easy to read. Right, next we're going to move on to move whilst pre-aiming. So, oddly enough, if you are sat in a, say you're playing Search and Destroy and you are sat in a corner like here, and you're waiting for someone to come past, whilst your left analog stick is not moving, if someone ran through here, you would get no aim assist. There will be zero aim assist. In order for the aim assist to actually kick in, you've got to be wiggling or moving one way or another. So what I like to do when I'm sat in a position like this, now this does tie into my other video, which was movement, and I didn't actually mention on this because I thought it was more beneficial to put it on this video. If you're sat like this, just wiggle the left stick around. You won't make much noise because you're barely moving, but if you just spin the left stick around and around like that, it will ensure that your aim assist kicks in when someone ends up running past. If you're thinking, how did I lose that gunfight? I was pre-aiming in, there's no way that I managed to lose that. It's probably due to that. That's essentially all it is. You're probably not really getting aim assist, so you are missing those few shots. So yeah. Now the next thing is going to be centering. Now on your middle of your screen, you'll see here I have a small red white dot in the middle, and I would always recommend keeping that flat. Almost, say, imagine a straight line between your character and where that white dot is. Keep that a flat line. You don't want to be running down looking like this. You don't want to be running up looking like this, because chances are if someone runs around this corner, they're not going to be up here. They're not going to be down here. They're going to be about here. So keep your aimer or your center of your screen towards where you suspect enemies to be. If you run around corners like this, you want to be like, have it over the header glitches in case anyone pops up there. Say I'm running around this corner, I'll make sure it's there before I even get to it. I wouldn't run around this corner and then look to it. I would run around this corner with it already there. And in fact, this goes into my next point. I probably wouldn't even do that. I'd probably pre-aim this, because it's such an obvious place for people to be. I know I sit there quite a lot because it's such a good spot to sit. When you approach this corner, instead of running around like this, just slow down, either peek it like this with your center of your aim over the heady, or just pre-aim it. A lot of COD is not about, well, if you're pre-aiming that and the person is still more accurate than you and they're not pre-aiming it, chances are you're still going to win that gunfight because you're already there. Your aim's already in. And yeah, I think pre-aiming gives a huge advantage over this, and it will help you win more gunfights rather than just sprinting around corners. We're now going to be moving into another tip, which is basically aiming for center mass. Now, I know a lot of you guys thinking that aiming for headshots is surely more beneficial because that way you kill the enemy faster. You're not wrong. Aiming for the middle of the body does increase the chances of getting. Aiming for headshots does increase the chances you're going to win the gunfight as long as you hit those headshots. If your accuracy is not 100% accurate, which it probably isn't, no one's is really, you're not going to be winning those gunfights due to the fact that with guns recoil bouncing from left to right, if you're aiming at someone's head relatively far away, you're going to be missing. You're going to be going over the shoulders. Whereas if you aim for center mass around the middle of the belly, middle of the torso, recoil might drag up to the head if you're lucky, but chances are you're going to be hitting those shots, and that's going to be much more valuable than trying to hit headshots and missing in the process. So yeah, I would again recommend just aiming center of the body around this sort of area and going with that. Now, it brings me on to my final point, which is going to be practice. Practice, practice, practice. There's a couple of drills I use when I'm playing, well, before I play, when I'm warming up for league play, and that is dropping into bots and just trying to be as accurate as possible. That includes, for example, whenever you start shooting an enemy, if your first bullet's not on them, stop shooting, run away, try and regain and retry it, because the more you get used to missing and then moving on to your shots while you're shooting, the more you're going to be losing gunfights when you get into league play. So when for example, let me try and find somebody. Can't actually see anyone because I've got bloody streaks up. Oh, here we are. So if I was to start in here and then move into it, stop. At that point, you know your first bullet has missed. Stop shooting. Try and reacquire your target, and do stuff more like this where you don't even that was a bad example because I missed my first shot. Yeah, you don't keep on shooting unless your first bullet hits them. Practice on getting that first bullet on. Practice centering the middle of your screen with where you think enemies are going to be, and run with that. And I think this is the most important thing. You can have whatever settings you like. It's all personal preference. All the attachments are personal preference. All the guns really are personal preference. The main thing is simply ensuring that you are used to whatever you're using and you're happy and you're sensitive with your settings. So running around in a bot lobby like this is huge in warming up. It's absolutely huge. I would also recommend turning your aim assist off here. If you just disable that and disable that, you'll be running around with that aim assist. And if once you've spent 10 minutes trying to shoot people or bots without aim assist, you'll get to know, once you go back to having aim assist, you'll be like, bloody hell, it's actually a huge difference. And you'll find it a lot easier to win your gunfights with aim assist because you'll be used to running without it. So yeah, so that's going to end the video. If there's any things you think I've missed or you want me to re-go over again, let me know in the comments. And I'll either do a quick comment to that video or I'll just run through what we've covered again today in more detail. I know I've gone over this couple of points quite quickly, but I do hope it's helped. It's more of a general video on how to improve your accuracy, and this is what's helped me to obtain where I'm at with my accuracy. I mean, I have been playing Call of Duty for years now, so that has helped, and I do enjoy an FPS shooter. That's all I really play, to be honest. So that probably does help. But again, that ties into practice. Practice, practice, practice. So I'll leave you with that. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed, because it really helps out the channel. And I will see you guys in the next video. Ciao.